This is Karen with NewClevelandRadio.net. And today I have the pleasure of introducing you to a performer. If you already know who she is, you're very, very lucky because I just learned of Kate Schutt.
Schutt
A
with
Schutt.
the photo.
Oh,
Yeah, Schutt.
okay. See, I'm not good with names.
That's
Uh,
okay.
so now everybody knows how to pronounce her last name. And Kate is a jazz pop artist. And from what I know about jazz pop artists, that means that you can do a little bit of everything uh,
Mhm.
in your music. And it's it's terrific. And prior to connecting with Kate today, I listened to a song that is on her newest album called Mothers. And it being right after Mother's Day really struck a chord. So you will notice in the show notes a link to this song. It's just one of many on her new album, and I recommend that you maybe listen to it.
Mm.
So, Kate, tell us a little bit about yourself. What made you decide that this is the type of career that you wanted to have?
Ha. I don't think nobody I know chooses music as a career. It chooses them. So that would be my answer to it. I mean, it was never a decision, really. I always played music and, um, had always written songs ever since I was a kid. And I just wanted to keep doing that. So uh, that's how I ended up where I am. I just never stopped.
Absolutely. So did you have formal training in music, or was it something that you just picked up on your own and went with it?
Well, I started on piano with a teacher and then guitar lessons after that and continued all of that and through college until then I left the college I was at and enrolled in Berklee College of Music and studied there for about 8 or 9 semesters and then left that and went back to where I had been before. And so I guess the answer is yes, I've had some formal training.
Absolutely. 8 or 9 semesters. That's a long time being
Yeah.
trained. So if anybody can sort of figure it out, semesters, uh, 2 semesters is almost a year. So she spent a long time studying
Yeah.
the craft.
Mhm.
So when you said you were writing songs as a young kid, where did you get your ideas from?
Well, as a kid, I mean, I played in a garage band, like a true garage band. We rehearsed every weekend in my friend's garage, and at the time we were playing a lot of classic rock. I mean, this is age 12, 13, 14. Um, we were playing a lot of classic rock, and one day we just decided, like, hey, we should write one of our own songs. And actually, what happened was um, one of the person whose garage we were rehearsing in had a funny weird poster on the wall, and we were looking around for something to write about, and we said, well, why don't we write about the guy in that poster? um, so that's how it started. And then over the years I'm a songwriter who writes about things that happened to her in her life, a very literal songwriter. And very much interested in storytelling. So all my songs come out of my own experience, things I've experienced, things I'm reading. I've written a number of songs about books I've read, and so it's just things that happen to me in my life, things that
Absolutely.
influence me.
Well, one of the things I have to tell our listeners is as I listened to this one selection, and there's many more on her new album called Bright Nowhere, which I'm going to ask you about that name in a second. But um, what I really appreciated was I could understand the song. I could understand the words you were singing. And there are a lot of artists out there today that I listen and it's like, what are they trying to say? They're hitting every pitch, every tone, and they're all over the board. And I understand that is a great talent, but as somebody who wants to listen to what the song is about, I often have a hard time, and I didn't with you. So tell me a little bit about, is that on purpose? Is that your style on purpose, or do you vary it?
No, that's my style on purpose. I mean, I'm always trying to write a song that sounds like a Cole Porter song. I'm very much influenced. I mean, he's probably my biggest songwriting influence, and I mean, I studied jazz, and the Great American Songbook is really close to my heart, and those songs are around for a reason. Like
Absolutely.
we're still thinking about them, and people are still playing them for a reason, whether or not the lyrics get performed every single time. So I'm always trying to. My biggest aspiration is to write a song that somebody mistakes for a Cole Porter song. Now look, if Cole, I have to write from my experience, which is as a female in 2021. So it's certainly not going to sound. It would be, a missed opportunity if I just tried to parrot.
Oh, sure.
So,
Absolutely.
the songs that I consider of my own that hit that bar are, a song like Mothers, or a song like If Spring Comes Now, or Spring That Felt Like Fall, which is on the new record, or Take Me With You, or Take Everything. These are songs that, really come out of that tradition, but then do something different.
Absolutely. So tell us about the title of the album, Bright Nowhere.
Yeah, Bright Nowhere is actually a phrase of the poet Seamus Heaney's. He's an Irish poet, arguably one of the greatest Irish poets that has ever lived, or that had ever lived. He's passed away, but it's from a beautiful elegy written for his mother, called Clearances. And when my mom got sick, which this record is all about, my time as her primary caregiver. Um, I was reading basically what I like to call the literature of death. Like, I was reading I mean, you could say that all literature is about death, but I was specifically reading lots and lots of novels and autobiographies and biographies about people, and memoirs about death and dying, and that's one that falls into that category. It's a beautifully evocative and long poem to his mother.
So you did talk about being your mother's caregiver, and for many of us who've experienced caregiving for a loved one, it's not the easiest thing. But I have to say, my experience with my mother um, probably was the most beautiful. As I look back at it, not at the time.
Mhm.
Now that I look back, um, because I could feel the love that she had for me, and I know I was letting her know, in some way that I loved her very, very much. But today we're living in a very volatile world. This past year has been difficult for many.
Mhm.
Um, and so when we talk about this album, and again, I've only listened to the one song, um, is it something that many of us will look back at and say, "Hey, that's just what I've experienced this past year."
Well, the album's really not about this past year.
Okay.
The album is about this time I spent with my mom, as the time I spent as a primary caregiver, and the album really looks at the landscape of around loss. Um, and so I think, my biggest hope is that someone listens to the record, and if they have experienced loss of some kind, and very few people, once you get in your teenage years, you start to experience losses, of all kinds. I'm not these loss doesn't have to apply to the loss of life. It could be the loss of a friendship, it could be the loss of um, a location, a home, a pet. I mean, loss is a broad category. um, my hope is that what the songs do is help people. They act like a key in a lock, and what I discovered during my time as my mom's caregiver is that people really, our culture does such a terrible job of teaching people how to deal with grief.
Right.
And uh, and people want to do the right thing. Everyone wants to do the right thing when they have a friend or a family member going through, loss or grief. It's just that we're not taught. We're not given the language. We're not shown great models of how to, really show up for people. And so, what I noticed was that you know, when given a script or a couple words or something to say, that people understand really quickly, and then they're able to do that and they're able to show up. And the songs kind of function as they can function as that little script. Like, say you don't know what to say to a friend who's just been diagnosed with cancer, well, then you can send them my song "Fight the Good Fight."
Yes.
And that song is like really like an anthem about, listen, you don't have to do this alone, you don't have to fight the good fight for me, you know. And so all of them, all the songs function in that way. Nothing I Won't Bear is a song I wrote specifically for my mom to say, look, I'm going to do everything I can do to take care of you and to be there with you. Again, it's another like really anthemic, happy song. So, and then there's other ones like The Spring That Felt Like Fall, which is just like a sort of an aching, elegy to the fact that by the spring we knew that she was in hospice, and we knew there was only one place it was going.
Right.
So it's the album is really for, it's for everybody. First of all of us experience loss, and it's not a downer. I mean, it tackles the subject head on, eyes wide open. But I wanted to make an impact with the record and change people's lives and change their experience around death and grief. And so, and to do that, I couldn't make every song a downer.
Right. And that's why I asked, because I think many of us who have gone through many losses this past year,
Hmm.
you know, will see that in the music. Uh,
Mm-hmm.
and, you know, that to me is very, very important, that I can listen to your song, your words, and you meant one thing, but I just might get a little different feeling out of that because of my experiences. And I love the fact that you brought up that loss is not just about death. It is about so many other things that we don't allow ourselves to truly accept and grieve over.
Mm-hmm.
And we listen to people who say to us, it's going to be okay. Well, it's not going to be okay if it's hurting the heart.
Yeah,
Uh,
and maybe it will, but not on your timeline, on my timeline.
yeah, exactly. And the timeline can change
Right.
radically. Like I said, listening to the song Mothers, it brought back some feelings. And it was like, am I glad I listened to it now, or should I have waited for later, or should I have listened yesterday? So
Yep.
the album came out in April. We
Mhm.
are here in mid-May, and it is available on Spotify. Um, are you going to be able to get out and perform at all, do you think, in the very near future with this?
Well, so it's available on Spotify, Pandora. If it isn't on Apple Music yet, it'll be there very soon. They were a little late to the program, but you can find it anywhere you get your music these days. Yeah, I mean, I've been performing it uh, streaming wise
Okay.
for a long time, since before I finished recording it. And prior to the start of the pandemic or to the lockdown, I was touring the country, playing it to cancer support communities and to people on my mailing list and my newsletter who had gone through grief and loss, and who wanted to have a house concert and really bring together a segment of their family or their friends, and do the thing, do a concert around it. And these were incredible experiences, very intimate, very moving. And I spent a lot of time with my fans out there, So, then lockdown happened and I moved to streaming and have been doing that. I had a streaming concert on Mother's Day a couple days ago. So I'll continue to do both. I mean, I'm obviously, like every musician, really looking forward to being back out on the road and interacting in person with people. But I think streaming for me is here to stay. I mean, I have fans all over the world, so why wouldn't I avail myself of the opportunity to meet them, meet each other online.
Well, and I think streaming has helped us in many ways because not all of us have that availability, whether it be financially or physically, to
Mhm,
get to a concert venue, whether
mhm,
it be a small, intimate one or a big arena. Uh,
mhm,
and since the pandemic, I have found more talent in this world than I ever would have believed. And it's not just, the one individual who goes and records something really quickly and puts it out on YouTube and gets a million hits. That doesn't
mhm,
mean it's good. Okay. Um, it's the real talent that's out there.
mhm,
And we certainly appreciate what you've all gone through this past year because it's been tough. And so I always tell our listeners, um, go out there and support the musicians, buy their
mhm,
music, pay for the streaming uh, services that you're using. They're not
mhm,
going to get very much for it, but every little penny does count.
mhm.
So, what do you have coming up in the future? You have another album in your head?
Yeah, I'm working on, just started working on a new record right now. So I'm looking forward to, I'm going to try to write that one pretty quickly, by September. So I'll be getting down. I mean, I've started work on it, but I'll be starting work pretty seriously here. Um, once I file my taxes. I
Don't
was appreciated. I appreciated the little extension the IRS gave me. I was busy releasing this record when that came about. So next week I will get down to work. I have been working on a record with another writer, a guy named Steve Seskin, amazing singer songwriter, Nashville guy, number one hits under his belt, and he and I've been co-writing for about a year together, and we need only a handful more tunes. We'll have 10 or 11 or 12 done, and probably do something with that. I certainly want to do something with all those songs. They're great songs. We didn't really write them for us. I didn't write them for myself, and I don't think Steve will use them. But we've got a handful of songs we need to go find some singers for.
how
Um,
wonderful.
so that'll be really fun, and yeah, just trying to stay engaged in the civic life of our country and where we are, and doing the work of anti-racism and trying to be a good citizen and a good person.
Well, we certainly appreciate that. We are all for, all of us coming together. Uh, I said something in passing to my husband this morning. We were coming home from an appointment, and I said, when are we all going to just put our hands out and be friends? And he looked at me and he said, honey, probably not in our lifetime, but put your hand out. And
Hmm.
I said, "I have been, and I'll
Hmm.
continue to,
Yeah.
but we hope that our programming does that for people, and your songs will do that as well, so we wish you well."
Thank you so much for having me. I really appreciate it, and thank you so much to your listeners. And I hope everyone's been okay and making it through and holding up and feeling a little bit of hope here. I know I'm coming to you from Midtown Manhattan, and there's definitely more people out on the streets than there were a couple months ago.
Well,
So
and I heard that the mayor wants to open up the city by Memorial Day, so,
I heard that too.
yeah, as exciting as it all sounds, it still makes me a little bit nervous.
Hmm.
I'm still very cautious where I go and what I do. Um, but
Yep.
eventually, I think it will be safer to be in all those fun places that we used to go to. And then we get to hear your music in person.
I hope so.
Have a great day. Thanks.
Thank you so much for your time. Appreciate it.
Thank
Be
you.
well.
You too.